It was just another quiet afternoon on the edge of a small country road, the kind of place where time slows down and people still smile at strangers. The sun hung lazily in the sky, and the only sound was the wind rustling through the trees, until a sleek black car came sputtering to a stop, its engine coughing before going completely silent. The driver, clearly frustrated, stepped out. He was well-dressed, clearly not from around there. What stood out even more than his polished shoes and tailored suit was the expression on his face, half confusion, half annoyance. On the other side of the road, a woman named Clara was tending to her garden. Just an ordinary woman with worn-out gloves, dirt under her nails, and a calm kindness in her eyes. She noticed the car and the stranger, and without hesitation, wiped her hands on her apron and crossed the road. "Need a hand?" she asked gently. The man hesitated, a bit taken aback by her confidence, and by the fact that she wasn't fawning over his obvious wealth. He explained that his car had broken down, and he was already running late for an important meeting in the city. He didn't expect her to know much about engines, but to his surprise, Clara popped the hood, poked around for a moment, and then made a few adjustments that got the engine humming again. Just like that. No fancy tools, no fuss. He stared at her, stunned, not just by what she'd done, but how she carried herself. There was something different about her. She wasn't impressed by his status. She didn't even ask for anything in return. Just a soft smile and a simple "glad I could help." But just as he thanked her and turned to leave, his eyes caught a glint of gold on her hand. A wedding ring. And for the first time since meeting her, his expression changed. There was something in the way he looked at that ring. Something deeper. Confused, he paused, glancing between the ring and Clara's calm face. And then he asked a question that changed everything. "Where did you get that ring?" Clara's smile faded slightly, and for a moment, the air felt heavy with unspoken words. Her eyes dropped to her hand, then back to him, quietly, as if she knew more than she was letting on. What was it about that ring? And why did a billionaire recognize it on the hand of a woman who claimed to live a simple life? What happened next? No one could have expected. Clara didn't answer right away. She looked down at the ring, twisting it slightly with her thumb as if trying to remember something, or maybe trying not to. The billionaire, whose name was Lucas, didn't push her, but he was clearly unsettled. That ring wasn't just familiar. It was identical to one he had once given someone years ago. A one-of-a-kind design, custom-made. Only two existed. One was long gone, or at least, that's what he believed. Clara finally spoke, her voice quiet. "It was a gift," she said simply. No details, no explanation, just those 3 words. Lucas studied her, trying to piece together what didn't make sense. She didn't look like someone who belonged in his world of business meetings, luxury penthouses, private jets. But that ring connected her to something, or someone, from his past. He felt it in his gut. "I've seen that ring before," he said carefully. "A long time ago." Clara didn't react much, but her eyes flickered just for a second, like a shadow passing behind them. Lucas noticed. "Where did you really get it?" he asked again, more softly this time, as if hoping she'd trust him. Instead of answering, Clara turned and walked toward her porch. "Would you like a glass of water?" she asked, not looking back. Lucas stood there for a second, torn between driving off and following her. But curiosity, no, something stronger, kept him there. He followed. The porch was small, the wood slightly worn, but it felt warm, lived in. There were flower pots, a rocking chair, a wind chime that whispered with every breeze. Clara handed him a glass of water and sat down silent. Lucas remained standing, holding the glass but not drinking. His mind was racing. He tried a different approach. "My brother," he said suddenly. He gave that exact ring to someone, before he disappeared. He watched her closely for a reaction. This time, Clara looked up. "Your brother," she repeated, as if testing the name in her mouth. "Elliot?" Lucas froze. He hadn't said the name. Not once. How do you know him? He asked, voice low and cautious now. Clara didn't answer, but her hands tightened around the arms of her chair. Her calm was starting to crack. Lucas leaned forward. He vanished 10 years ago. No note, no goodbye. Everyone gave up looking, but I didn't. And that ring, that was meant for someone he loved. Clara finally looked him in the eyes, and what Lucas saw there wasn't fear. It was pain, deep, quiet, and buried for years. But still, she said nothing. And in that silence, the mystery only grew deeper. Lucas sat down slowly, still holding the glass of water, though he hadn't taken a sip. Clara's silence spoke louder than any words. Something about this place, this woman, and that ring, it was all connected. But how? And why hadn't she said anything if she knew Elliot? Did he come here? Lucas asked, his voice steady but strained. Is that where he went? Clara didn't nod, but she didn't deny it either. Instead, her eyes drifted toward the small field beyond her garden, where wildflowers swayed in the wind. This isn't a place people just end up in, she finally said. You have to be running from something, or towards something. Lucas leaned forward, not blinking. He was running. Clara didn't answer directly. She stood up instead, brushing off her apron and walking toward a small wooden shed near the edge of the property. Lucas followed without asking. She opened the door slowly, revealing a cluttered but organized workspace. Old tools, faded photos pinned to the walls, and a dusty typewriter sitting on a table. One photo in particular caught his eye. A black and white picture of Elliot, smiling, arm around a woman who looked a lot like Clara. Younger, softer, but unmistakably her. Lucas stepped closer. That's him, he whispered. And you were with him. Clara nodded once, eyes downcast. We met by chance. He was lost, not just on the road, but in life. He never told me much, but I didn't ask either. He needed peace. This place gave him that. Lucas's mind was racing. His brother had vanished without a trace. All this time, he was here, living a new life with someone, with Clara. But if that was true, where was he now? Where is he? Lucas asked, trying to keep his voice calm. Is he still here? Clara turned away, her fingers tightening around the doorframe. He left one morning, she said quietly. Said he had to make something right. That was the last time I saw him. Lucas looked at her, disbelief mixing with frustration. You didn't try to find him? Call someone? Me? Clara's eyes flashed with something sharp. I didn't even know your name until today. He never mentioned you, not because he didn't care, but because he was protecting you. From what, I don't know, but he was scared, and not for himself. Lucas felt like the ground was shifting beneath him. What had Elliot gotten himself into? And why did it feel like Clara was still hiding something? Before he could ask another question, they both turned suddenly at the sound of a car slowing on the gravel road. Clara's face went pale. They don't usually come this way, she whispered. Lucas stepped forward, heart pounding. Who? Clara didn't answer. She just backed away, eyes locked on the approaching vehicle. Something was coming. And whatever it wasn't good. The figure in a shed doorway stepped into the light, but it wasn't Elliot. It was someone much younger. Barely a teenager, eyes wide, watching everything with quiet intensity. Clara froze, her body tense. Lucas turned to her sharply. Who is that? The man on the porch raised an eyebrow. Well, now, that's interesting. Clara stepped forward, shielding the boy. Go back inside, she said softly. Now. But the boy didn't move. He looked at the stranger, then at Lucas, then at the ring on Clara's hand, his gaze lingering there just a moment too long. Lucas whispered, Is he, Clara, is he Elliot's? She didn't answer, but the silence said more than words ever could. The man's lips curled into something like a grin. That explains why Elliot vanished. He didn't just run, he started over. Clara's eyes narrowed. Leave him out of this. But the man was already shifting his focus, piecing things together. So Elliot left behind more than encrypted files. He left a bloodline. And if the code's embedded in the ring, he said, gesturing to Clara's hand, there's a good chance it was passed down, genetically. Lucas stepped forward, fury building. He's just a kid. The man shrugged, unbothered. Sometimes the key to unlocking sensitive data isn't just metal and software. Sometimes it's biological. Clara's voice cracked. You're not taking him. Lucas's thoughts raced. Whatever his brother had uncovered before he disappeared, it wasn't just corporate. It was something deeper, dangerous. A digital key tied to a ring, encrypted files no one could crack, and now, a child born into that secret. Clara was trembling now, her body caught between panic and fight. Lucas turned to her. We have to get out of here, he whispered. Now. But before she could move, the man reached into his coat. Lucas instinctively stepped in front of Clara and the boy, heart pounding. But instead of a weapon, the man pulled out a sleek black device, thin, smooth, blinking with a faint blue light. This, he said, holding it up, was built to scan for the encryption signature. I've used it on every known variation. No hits. Until today. He pointed it toward the ring. The light blinked faster. Clara's breath hitched. It's live, the man said. That means the original files are still active, which also means someone, maybe you, maybe the boy, has access. Lucas looked at Clara, the truth settling in. This wasn't about what Elliot took, it was about what he protected. And now, that secret had a heartbeat. Clara didn't blink. Her eyes locked onto the device in the man's hand, and for the first time, her voice was sharp. You don't understand what you're playing with. Lucas stepped closer to her, his heart still pounding. What's on those files? He asked. What's so important that they're willing to follow you for years? The man answered instead. It's proof. Data Elliot stole from his own company before he disappeared. Evidence of illegal deals, offshore accounts, and a project, something called Emberlight. No one believed it existed, but if it does, it could take down some of the most powerful people in the world. Lucas stared at him. And you're one of them, aren't you? The man's eyes narrowed, but he didn't deny it. The device in his hand let out a sharp tone. A green light flashed. It's sensing, he said. It's happening. Clara suddenly lunged forward, snatching the device out of his hand. Before he could react, she smashed it against the wooden porch rail, pieces flying in every direction. The man reached for her, but Lucas was faster. He tackled him to the ground, fists flying. The two struggled, dust and gravel flying around them. Run, Clara shouted to the boy. Go to the back, now. The boy hesitated only for a second before bolting toward the woods behind the house. The man shoved Lucas off him and scrambled to his feet, fury in his eyes. You just made a big mistake, he growled at Clara. But Clara didn't back down. You think Elliot didn't plan for this, she said, her voice steady now. The files were never in the ring. That was a diversion. The real data, he hid it somewhere else, somewhere only his son knows how to find. The man froze, blinking. You're lying. Clara shook her head. Elliot made sure the truth wouldn't die with him. Lucas turned to her, stunned. He's alive. Clara hesitated, then gave the smallest nod. He's been hiding all this time, watching, protecting us. Before Lucas could speak, a sound cut through the trees, a sharp crack. Not a car, not a branch, a gunshot. Everyone turned. The boy had disappeared into the woods. Clara gasped, panic flooding her face. Lucas took off running, calling his nephew's name, crashing through the brush. The man was already on his radio, calling backup. But just as chaos erupted around them, a voice echoed from deeper in the forest, steady, calm, unmistakable. Let him go. Lucas stopped cold. Out from the trees, hands raised, walked a man with a grizzled beard, tired eyes, and a familiar ring on his finger. Elliot was alive. But something in his eyes warned. The real danger had just begun. Lucas couldn't believe his eyes. After 10 long years, Elliot was standing right in front of him, older and worn, but unmistakably alive. Clara's breath caught in her throat, and for a second, everything around them seemed to freeze. Even the man from the SUV lowered his radio, stunned. Elliot stepped closer, slowly, hands still raised. "It's over," he said calmly. "You found what you wanted, but it's not going to help you." The man's voice was tight. "Where is the data?" Elliot looked toward the woods where his son had vanished. "Safe, and not where you think. You spent years chasing hardware, passwords, codes, but you never thought to look at what really mattered." The man took a step forward, but Lucas blocked his way. "You're done," Lucas said. "Whatever power you had, it ends here." Sirens echoed faintly in the distance. Clara, hands still shaking, finally allowed herself to breathe. "I called them," she whispered, "before you even stepped out of the car." The man scowled but said nothing. He knew it was too late. Minutes later, local authorities arrived, followed by federal agents Lucas had secretly alerted days earlier when his search for Elliot brought up too many red flags. The man was taken into custody without resistance, though his eyes stayed locked on Elliot the whole time, filled with silent threats. As the sun began to set, the chaos slowly faded. The boy returned, safe and shaken but unharmed, running straight into Clara's arms. Elliot stood a few feet away, watching quietly, unsure if he belonged in the moment. Lucas stepped beside him. "Why didn't you tell me?" he asked softly. Elliot sighed. "I wanted to, but if they knew you were involved, they would have come after you too. I had to disappear. I had to protect them." Lucas nodded, the pain of the past still fresh but softened by understanding. "You did what you had to." The brothers stood there in silence, watching Clara and the boy. For the first time in years, they were all in the same place, together. In the days that followed, Elliot handed over the final pieces of evidence to authorities. The truth about Emberlight came to light, exposing corruption and secret deals across several major corporations. Headlines spread quickly, with keywords like billionaire whistleblower, hidden files, and encrypted ring drawing global attention. But to Clara, Lucas, and Elliot, it was never about the headlines. It was about family, about truth, and survival. Elliot chose not to return to his old life. Instead, he stayed close, building something new with Clara and his son. Lucas, too, changed, less driven by business, more grounded in what truly mattered. In the end, it wasn't money, secrets, or power that changed everything. It was a simple act of kindness on a dusty roadside, and the ring that brought them all back together.